The entity that only referred to himself as the human was still humming when he flew to intercept the little wooden box containing the body of Revel. Humming was such a pleasant human habit. His people might not have ended up so deeply unpleasant if they had learned such things. Beside him lay a grey briefcase, dripping slightly onto the floor. The many ships that had followed the funeral watched as the engineer was sent on her last voyage. The atmosphere turned from somber to vengeful as the events became clearer. The XCC knew exactly what to do and sent them a list of known Incise assets, and the informal fleet moved to support the HOF in their efforts. Those that were human-owned began upgrading their weapons while the rest, well, technically nothing happened at all. Once the space cleared and left the small box to its final end, the stranger's ship moved to intercept it. He wasn't worried anyone could see him, not while they were intent on revenge. He transported the coffin to his medbay and took a look, running his hand over the polished wood. He spoke to the briefcase. "Very nice work. Very symbolic. It will be wasted on you, I suppose, but this is how things should be done." The briefcase didn't reply. It didn't take long to recover Revel. There wasn't very much to recover. She had blown her ship to wreckage while standing in it. Still, he had the weight right for what he had planned. Again, he addressed the case. "You see, a little forward-thinking, and it's all a sort of poetry. Well, we might as well get started." He carefully placed Revel's remains aside and lifted the briefcase. He frowned. "I expect you would like a look." With a nod, he turned the briefcase transparent. It revealed the face of Incise, eyes wide and staring, his mouth open in a scream. "Sorry about that. Your tongue was a little heavy, so I didn't bring it with me. Don't worry, it tasted lovely, so it didn't go to waste. In fact, you lost a lot of weight. It was like old times." The human's face flickered like a broken screen, something larger and darker behind it. "Very old times. Now you weigh exactly the same as Revel. Isn't that nice?" He phased the briefcase into the wood as Incise's eyes frantically scanned the room. The stranger ran his hands across the lid. "Now that's better. Don't worry. My little box will keep you alive until you hit the surface of the sun. It's going to hurt a lot and take a terribly long time. But that's just the price you have to pay for not doing your research. I'm afraid I can't hang around for a chat. Someone will be checking on this box. Don't worry, they won't come near you. I've made a few adjustments, and you are now in the first ever stealth coffin. Doesn't that make you feel special? Off you go." He transported the coffin back on its journey. He carefully laid Revel's remains on the bed and turned on the machines. They were really for the feel of the thing. He flickered through his memories of Revel until he found the one that was the most complete. The first time they had met as she tore the doors off his prison. His people didn't really care about motives, reasons, and such. They only cared about results. She had cast down the prison and dropped the broken remains on her enemies. She had caused an extinction-level event because they had crossed her, and, even if she would never know it, his people had thought it was beautiful. She had made friends. He left the body to rebuild and went looking for her timeline, a thing more familiar to him than his own. He found her as she wired the engines of her ship to blow. He waited respectfully as she caused another act of mayhem and then snatched her essence as the fire took her. He carefully matched the two elements and left time to do its work. He decided to go and say goodbye to his ship. He was proud of his ship. He had created it from the best human technology he could find. A hobby, but a good one. It just didn't seem right to leave an engineer without a ship, so he had decided to give her this one. He had tried to give her a human AI, but it wouldn't stop screaming. Perhaps Revel could fix it. He smiled as he set the destination. Revel would be looking for answers, and he liked to help. He had thought about explaining, but really, what would be the point? Better another problem for her to examine. She liked those. Anyway, he had a new ship he wanted to try. The ship that flew from the hold was shaped like an atmospheric fighter from some ancient days, with swept-back wings and a small cockpit. Utterly impractical for space, but he didn't care. It was a machine made for war and death and nothing else, and he thought it beautiful. Revel woke up. That came as quite a surprise to her. She tried to figure out how she had failed to blow the ship. Then the memories returned. They had blown as she stood between them. She had to have died. This must be something else. It was unlikely the AI would have saved her. She was trying to kill it. Had killed it. Anyway, it wasn't a human AI. No way it had access to such things. She stopped thinking about it and looked around. Human medbay. She sniffed, never used. Still pristine with none of the smells and noise. She called out, "Ship? Where the hell am I?" Nothing. So no AI. This seemed more and more like a dream. She pulled herself up and felt unfamiliar. Not wrong, just odd. She lifted herself off the bed and startled as she saw another human doing the same. Then her brain caught up and realized she was looking in a mirror. She stood up and took a closer look. It was her, but a her from a long time ago. Her when she had first stepped into space. She ran her hand over her face. Unlined, unmarked. Never tired, never hunted. "Young." Out loud she said, "Bugger. I'm a fucking clone." She walked down the empty corridor, listening. Other than the dull hum of machines, she heard nothing. The bridge stood unguarded as she opened the door. No one. The bridge was big, consoles beeping away, and the ship was obviously going somewhere, but nothing. Well, one thing. Someone had left a bouquet of roses and a get-well-soon card. She was beginning to wonder what drugs she was on. She continued her search. The place was pristine, as if no one had ever set foot on board. It was big enough to be a battleship and fully equipped. In fact, it had far too much equipment. It had everything. Science, bio, survey, weapons, search and rescue. The list just kept going. After an hour or so, she found the canteen and the food printers. Now for the important question. Did it have coffee? The answer was yes, and it was good. She was willing to forgive the universe if it came with coffee. That gave her an idea, and she went to where the captain was supposed to be. The captain's quarters looked as clean and unused as everything else, but she knew their secrets. She opened the desk to find an unopened bottle of very decent Irish whiskey and poured some into her coffee. Fuck it, she had a new liver anyway. She sat and put her feet up on the desk. As she drank her coffee, she looked around until she spotted the one thing out of place. A red box flung across the room into the furthest corner. That was something she recognized. She lifted the box and realized that she had been right. She carried it to the desk and poured a little more whiskey into her coffee, then plugged it into the screen. The face of a terrified human flashed on screen and then turned itself off. Revel sighed. A baby AI. A scared baby AI. She began talking, assuming the box was listening. Hello in there, my name is Revel and I think I'm dead. I've been an engineer for 40-50 years and I have never seen a ship like this. Either the crew is invisible or they are fanatic cleaners with a knack for hide and seek. There is just 2 of us on board and I haven't had a conversation in weeks. How are you doing? The screen flicked alive. You did this. Is it gone? That creature, is it gone? Then it went blank again. Revel drank her coffee and looked around. There's still only me and I just woke up here. Do you have a name? Again the screen appeared. You're lying. It told me you would come, that I would serve you. It was evil beyond belief. Revel laughed. Well, I don't need servants, thanks. I can run a ship myself. As to the rest, I haven't a clue. I don't even know where we are going. I was about to die and then I woke up in a clone body in the med bay. Then I made coffee. No evil except wasting good whiskey. The face from the screen studied her closely. Are you truly human? Truly an engineer? Alone? She ruined a little more whiskey. Yes, truly human, truly an engineer and alone. In all the years that Revel had been on ships, on strange planets and difficult days, she had never seen what happened next. The AI began crying. The genie flew deep into the dark, glad for the silence but now missing the triumph of battle. She knew she could go and take her bows, listen to endless stupid speeches about her wonderful and brave actions, but that would be worse than losing. She polished out the dents from her hull and packaged up all the intel for the XCC. She even put a bow on it. Then she sent the lot and wiped it from her memory. At least her dad got to see her dance again. Then the XCC called back. She nearly didn't answer, as always debating the thin threads that tied her to all the fuss. What? I'm washing my hair. The director never let anyone else deal with the genie, a mind born for war in a galaxy of mostly peace. He might walk softly, but she was the big stick. Genie, nice work on the incise, but I have something else. We don't know what it is, but there is a very big ship heading to Aristotle, and it isn't local. Genie stopped cleaning. Not local meant not from the local galaxy. The director continued. I want you to intercept it. Find out what we are dealing with. We are still trying to tidy up the rest of the Incisi, but you and your sisters are better placed for this. At least one multidimensional creature has intervened in this conflict so far, and I need you to find out if this is more of the same. Try not to shoot at it, but I'm including all the intel we have. Go and have a look and don't die. Your father and mothers are already pissed at me because you won't turn up for your medals. Genie felt the joy return. An enemy from outside. Director, I am happy to help. I will study the intel. In a burst of sudden humanity, she added, if this all works out, I'll go visit you on Mars for the medals. We'll throw a party. She hated parties. The director ended the call. That was wild enthusiasm from the genie, practically a scream of happiness. He nodded to himself and began the call that he had dreaded. Aristotle XCC here. I may have another Exeno on course to your planet. I'm sending out what I have to hand, but you need to gear up. I'm sorry. When I can pull the fleets back together, I'll send them straight to you. But right now we are spread across 80 systems. By the time that particular call had been encoded and dark burst across the emptiness of space, Revel had finished her whiskey and moved to study the ship. The AI had finally fallen silent. If it wasn't bizarre, she would swear that it was asleep. She sat at the engineering console and nothing responded. She moved to the captain's console and tried that. I activated at her touch and the screen lit up with a demand for identification. She was confused. I'm Senior Engineer Revel. How do you not know your only passenger? The screen flickered and a new panel opened. Insert password. Revel laughed at it. My what? How old is this ship? Nothing answered, just the panel asking for something from the Dark Ages. Revel sat back and looked around, idly picking up the card that sat nearby. Who had left this for her? Whose ship was this? Where was everybody? She opened the card, but it was blank. No surprise. Just on a whim, she typed "Get well soon" into the console. A panel on the arm of the chair opened, illuminated by a dim red light. Revel leaned in and studied it. Some type of bio-reader obviously meant for her left hand. She carefully placed her hand, expecting the usual laser show. She wasn't prepared when a spike shot through her hand and opened like a harpoon, impaling it and holding it in place. She yelped, "Fuck!" more in surprise than pain. The pain began as the spike began spinning and cored a hole through her hand as it retracted back into the arm of the chair. She was too busy cursing and trying to wrap her hand as she ran to the med bay, and so missed the console message "Tissue sample validated." Identity confirmed. Command confirmed. Voice commands activated. Welcome, Captain Revel. The panel slid closed. Revel was still cursing while she stuffed the hole with biopolymer and sprayed fresh skin on the wound. She knew she would have to run hundreds of tests to ensure that nothing exciting had been punched into her body. The pain stopped, but her hand wasn't going to be right for days. She bent her wrist and clenched a fist, just to be sure. Her opinion of whoever designed a vampire chair was unprintable. She grabbed a clean medical jacket and decided to cheer herself up by visiting the engineering department. She glanced at the time. She'd had a pristine new body for 6 hours before scarring it. Irritating. As she walked down the bright corridors, she noted the details out of habit. It looked like any human ship, but something was off. Missing. She was halfway to her destination when she realized what it was. Color. All the colors were off. The reds were too red, the greens too pale, and the blues several shades off the habitual one used. She knew that they were universal on every ship and had been for many years. They were required to be the same since they showed important points like power, comms, evacuation, all the systems. It was like whoever built these saw things using a slightly different eye or just didn't care about what other ships did. The Dark Sisters of the AI-Human Alliance swept silently towards her, preparing for a dimensional battle that they weren't sure they could win. Aristotle took the call from the XEC and stayed silent for a moment. He was aware that his entire world had only been saved by sheer luck, the fortunate timing of one encounter with a new reality defending them from the second. They had known that they lived among other universes for many generations, but to find the unknown spaces in between were inhabited. That was causing an entire rewriting of physics. Now it seemed like these strange creatures were taking an unwanted interest in his world. At least this time he had some warning. He began by alerting the outer defenses and turning his production to weapons. Then he grounded every ship within his space, summoning them to begin an evacuation. It would be impossible to remove a significant number of people, but he could evacuate many of the children. Then he began activating his underground fortresses and military avatars. Commander Raven of the Rescue and Recovery Orbitals surrounding Aristotle listened to the briefing in silence. Another weird-ass ship from fucking Narnia. She began sending her shuttles down to the planet, passing command to the AI. Then she began rearming for Dragon. Patrika, Loki, and Oscar were making themselves comfortable in the Wellerman's guest suite. Loki was plonked down on his survival suit, now appropriated as his favorite blanket, while Oscar was spending his time talking to his worried parents, reassuring them that all was well and that he was learning a lot. They had been quite short with Patrika, as if it was her fault that the dangerous toys had been attacked. Then the Wellerman avatar arrived and indicated he wanted a word. Patrika wondered what was happening now. She pulled up Loki and told Oscar she was going for a walk. Wellerman began slowly. "I'm sorry, Patrika, the HDF has been called up. Jeannie let me know that we have an unwanted visitor passing us. You're a captain now, according to the XEC, and I'm required to get you ready." Patrika smiled. "Don't worry. I knew it would be something. It always is. Eventually the XCC will remember that I don't have a ship." The Wellerman hesitated. "I'm afraid you do. They want you on the Genie. She will be here shortly." He saw Patrika's expression harden and added, "She's not happy either. Please, perhaps this is nothing." Patrika scowled. "They want me to captain an AI warship. A warship that doesn't like people or particularly need or want a captain." The Wellerman sighed. "You know the terms of the Alliance. This is an XCC call, not ours. She will do what she is told, just as you will. I suggest you bring Loki. She likes dogs." Before she had a chance to call the XCC and give a detailed and vivid description of what she thought about this posting, her comms lit up. She watched as the security on her comms escalated, layer after layer being added. Finally, it set at the highest grade possible and the incoming call was permitted. "Patrika, this is the director. I imagine you have a few questions. It's not an accident that I called you up for this. I want you to look at this target from an engineering perspective. Let Jeannie do the fighting if necessary, but I need information, not glory. You earned your captain's rank under fire, and I have full confidence in your judgment. The call cut before she could respond. She looked at her comms. Asshole! Then she went to throw her stuff, what little there was, back into her bags and say goodbye to /Longnose/ and /Centofappy/. What the hell was she going to do with Oscar? Revel pushed open the door to engineering and gazed around. It looked perfect. Spotless machines humming nicely. Tools and consoles gleaming on the walls. It looked like the dream of every engineer. The wet dream of every apprentice. She was instantly suspicious.